most important is the infrastructure. And I think as we continue to see, especially weekends and holidays, the infrastructure in terms of transportation is getting much more stressed. Right? What are your plans to further improve the infrastructure for both private and public? Thank you.
Yes. When you have a huge traffic congestion, despite us building roads, I think for Penang, as you know, we have actually widened many roads, even for the Batu Lanjang bypass, or rather the Lay-by, and also the Jalan Machinery, we have widened the roads, but still it doesn't seem to have any effect. It doesn't seem to have any effect because the number of cars coming in, especially during weekends, is frightening. Now in Malaysia, everybody wants to come to Penang. And not only that, internationally, people also want to come to Penang. For example, you look at the number of flights in Penang has increased. Singapore have 11 flights daily. Indonesia, Aceh, Medan, you're talking about more than 10 flights combined, more than 10 flights daily. Even Hong Kong is increasing its direct flights. We used to have 4, increased to 7, now we are going to 10 a week. Likely by next year it will be 14 a week. That means 2 flights a day. So when you have this type of volume coming in, generally of course, it reflects that people want to come to Penang. Now, is that good or not? It's good, isn't it? But then of course you have to live with the after effects of more traffic. If you don't want them to come, then of course there will be less traffic. When you talk to the businessmen, especially accountants, you all say, of course, it's good, you want businesses to strive till you got more business. But that doesn't mean that we are not doing anything. Now let me state very clear that we believe that our solution to traffic woes is public transport. There's no substitute for good public transport. But this is where my problem comes in. I do not control public transport. The federal government controls public transport. Even the taxis that doesn't have taxi meters, I don't have any authority and power. It is the power of the federal government. So if they do not act, we are helpless. Unless you do something in the next general election. But that doesn't mean that if we cannot have any influence over public transport, we sit down and do nothing. I'm not a believer in do nothing. I'm not a believer in just putting up my hands and leave it to fate. No. At least what we can do is try to build roads so that whilst we should be trying to move people and not move vehicles, at least give us more options. And once we have more options, at least we can try to facilitate. For example, one area that we want, that even though Rapid Penang is not under the state, we have actually taken many initiatives. For example, do you know that Penang is the only city in Malaysia that gives you free city tours? What do you mean by free city tours? You know, within the Heritage Enclave, you can hop on to the buses and go for a ride for free. You can't find that in London, I'm sure. But we have that in Malaysia. We have that in Penang, the only state in Malaysia. And this is paid by the state government. We hope to encourage people to take buses. Even for those working in the Pioneer Pass FIZs. When you go across the bridge, we have also implemented the park and ride system. The first one in the country, where you park your car for a nominal sum of 1 ringgit a day and hop on to the buses provided by the state government and take a free ride to your factory or campus in Pioneer Pass. And that is again paid by the state government. We spend more than 3 million every year. So this is our way of trying to encourage the use of public transport, even though we do not control public transport. Apart from that, in terms of roads and infrastructure, we believe that we should have more options. That is, if you want to have more buses to come in, you need to have dedicated bus lanes. Does Penang have the road space to have a dedicated bus lanes? Unless you provide alternative routes. That's where the 4 proposed infrastructure projects come in. From Tanjung Bunga to Batu Ferringhi, a new 4-lane highway is proposed. From Gurney Drive to Tun Dr. Lim Chong Yu, an elevated and underground 4-lane highway is proposed. From the densely populated area of Aitam Pai Trubong, a 4-lane highway is also proposed. And of course, so that when you want to go across the mainland, you don't have to congest the only bridge, or there will be 2 bridges. Everybody go to that same area. We propose a 3rd link, the underground sea tunnel from Gurney Drive here to Bagat Ajam Batu. When all these projects will be progressively completed, if they are completed by 2020, finally for the sea tunnel, of course, the precondition is that you must fulfill all the environmental requirements. Penang has a green state. We put green above. And that is why if you do not fulfill the environmental requirements, you will not proceed with the project. So by 2020, when these projects are in place, we hope to have more options and at least mitigate, we cannot completely overcome, but mitigate the traffic congestion that you are complaining about. Another measure that we are taking that is not very popular is our clamping and towing of illegally parked vehicles. Until we get criticized, not in Penang but in Kuala Lumpur. Somebody questioned me during the debate, wow, how can you tow people's car at 10:30? You block people's car, we tow lah. That is the law, isn't it? And I think this is the only way that we can try to at least open up and, as I said, try to overcome whilst these projects are being developed. No, traffic congestion cannot be overcome overnight. We need community participation, we need community support, and of course, the political will to carry it through. Thank you.
Thank you. We still have Malaysia.
I think, thank you. Is that when you look at the ministry figures, they lump services, they even lump oil and gas. Now, I don't think you should lump oil and gas as part of the services sector. Services, I think, should be a little bit more refined. But, so that's why you want to look at the figures from a comparative basis. I don't think it's very accurate. But for Penang, since Penang has no natural resources, we got no oil, we got no gas, we got no timber, we got no land, we only got human talent. So because we only got human talent, when we talk about services, it is purely services. So last year, according to the figures, our services sector brought in around 5 billion ringgit. So we have around 5 billion ringgit in services. So I hope that this helps answer your question. But again, I think the data collection leaves a lot to be desired. Probably we have to improve on that. But that is of course beyond me. That is with the relevant ministry. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Now we'll close the question and answer.